The Valley of Fear by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Part 1. The Tragedy of Burstone. Chapter 1. The Warning. "I'm inclined to think," said I should do so," Sherlock Holmes remarked impatiently. "I believe that I am one of the most long-suffering of mortals, but I admit that I was annoyed at the sardonic interruption." "Really, Holmes," said I severely, "are you trying at times?" He was too much absorbed with his own thoughts to give any immediate answer to my remonstrance. He leaned upon his hand, and with untasted breakfast before him, and he stared at the slip of paper which he had just drawn from its envelope. And then he took the envelope itself, held it up to the light, and very carefully studied both the exterior and the flap. "It's Spurlock's writing," he said thoughtfully. "I can hardly doubt that is Spurlock's writing, though I've seen it only twice before. The Greek E was something peculiar, top flourish, it's distinctive. But if it is Spurlock, then something must be of the very first importance." He was speaking to himself rather than to me, but my vexation disappeared with the interest which words awakened. "Who is Porcock?" I asked. "Porcock, Watson, is a non-diplom, a mere identification mark, but behind it lies a shifty and evasive personality. In a formal letter, he frankly informed me that the name was not his own, and defied me ever to trace him among the teeming millions of this great city. Porlock is important, not for himself, but for the great man whom he is in touch. Picture yourself, the piloted fish with the shark, the jackal with the lion, anything that is insignificant in companionship with this is formidable. Not only formidable, Watson, but sinister. In the highest degree sinister. That is where he comes within my purview. You heard me speak of Professor Moriarty, the famous scientific criminal famous as among us crooks. "My blushes, Watson," Holmes murmured in a depreciating voice. "I was about to say, as he is unknown to the public." "A touch, a distinct touch," cried Holmes. "You are developing a certain unexpected vein of cocky humor, Watson, against which I must learn to guard myself. But in calling Moriarty a criminal, you are uttering libel in the eyes of the law. And there lie the glory and the wonder of it. The greatest schemer of all time, the organizer of every debauchery, the controlling brain of the underworld, a brain which might have made or marred the destiny of a nation. That's the man. But so aloof is he from general suspicion, so immune from criticism, so admirable in his management and self-effacement, that with those very words that you had uttered, he could hail you to a court, emerge with your year's pension as a solarium, and for his wounded character. Is he not celebrated author of the Dynamics of an Asteroid, a book which ascends to such rarefied heights of pure mathematics, and that it is said there is no man in the scientific press capable of criticizing it? Is this man to deduce, foul-mouthed doctor and slandered professor? Such would be your respective roles. That's genius, Watson. But if I'm spared by lesser men, our day will surely come. Ah, yes. This so-called Porlock is a link to the chain some little way from its great attachment. Porlock is not quite a sound link between ourselves. He's the only flaw in the chain so far as I've been able to test it. But no chain is stronger than its weakest link. Exactly, my dear Watson, hence the extreme importance of Porlock. Led by some rudimentary aspirations towards right, and encouraged by the judicious stimulation on an occasional 10-pound note sent to him by devious methods. He has once or twice given me advanced information which has been of value. That highest value which anticipates and prevents rather than avenges crime. I cannot doubt that, if we had the cipher, we should find that this communication is of the nature that I indicate. Again, Holmes flattened out the paper upon its unused plate. I rose and leaned over him, stared down at the curious inscription, which ran as follows: 534 C2 13 127 3631411721 Douglas 109 293 537 Burlstone 26 Burlstone 947 171. What do you make of it, Holmes? It is obviously an attempt to convey secret information. But what is the use of a cipher message without the cipher? And in this instant, none at all. Why do you say, in this instant? Because there are many ciphers which I could read as easily as I do Apocrypha. But the agony column, such crude devices amuse intelligent without fatiguing it. But this is different. It's clearly a reference to the words in a page of some book. Until I am told which page and which book, I am powerless. But why Douglas and Burlstone? Clearly, because those words which were not contained in the page question. Then why has he not indicated the book? Your naive shrewdness, my dear Watson, and indicate cunning that is a delight of your friends, would surely prevent you from closing cipher and message in the same envelope. Should it miscarry, you are undone, as it both have to go wrong before any harm comes from it. Our second post is now overdue, and I shall be surprised if it does not bring us either a further letter of explanation, or, as more probable, the very volume to which these figures refer. Holmes' calculations was fulfilled within a very few minutes by the appearance of Billy, the page, with the very letter we were expecting. The same writing, remarked Holmes as he opened the envelope, and actually signed, he added with an exuberant voice as he unfolded the epistle. Come, we are getting on, Watson. His brow clouded, however, as he glanced over their contents. Dear me, this is very disappointing. I fear, Watson, that all our expectations come to nothing. I trust that the man Porlock will come to no harm. Dear Mr. Holmes, he says, I will go no further in this matter. It is too dangerous. He suspects me. I can see that he suspects me. He came to me quite unaffectedly after I'd actually addressed this envelope with the intention of sending it to you. The key to the cipher. I was able to cover it up, but if he had seen it, it would have gone hard with me. But I read suspicion in his eyes. Please burn the cipher message, which could be now no use to you. Fred Porlock. Holmes sat for some little time, twisting the letter in his fingers and frowning as he stared into the fire. After all, he said at last, there may be nothing in it. This may be his only guilt and conscience. Knowing himself to be a traitor, he may have read the accusation in the other's eyes. The other being, I presume, Professor Moriarty. No less, when any of that party talk about he, you know whom they mean. There is one predominant he for all of them. What can you do? That's a large question. When you have one of the first brains of Europe up against you, and all the power of darkness at his back, there are infinite possibilities. Anyhow, Brennan Porlock is evidently scared out of his senses. Kindly compare the writing in his note upon its envelope, which was done, he tells us, before this ill-omened visit. One thing is clear and firm, other hardly legible. Why did he write at all? Why did he not simply drop it? Because he feared I'd make some inquiry after him in the case, and possibly bring in trouble on him. No doubt, said I. Of course, I picked up the original cipher message and bending it to my brows over. It's pretty maddening to think that an important secret may lie here in this slip of paper, and that it's beyond human power to penetrate it. Sherlock Holmes had pushed away his untasted breakfast and lit the unsavory pipe, which was the companion of his deepest meditations. "I wonder," said he, leaning him back and staring at the ceiling. "Perhaps there are points which have escaped your Machiavellian intellect. Let us consider the problem in the light of pure reason. This man's references to a book, that as our point of departure, a somewhat vague one. Let's see if I can narrow it down as I focus my mind upon it. It seems rather less impenetrable. What indications have we have to this book? Well, it's surely not quite so bad as that. The cipher message begins with a large 534, does it not? We may take it as working hypothesis that 534 is the particular page to which the cipher refers. So, our book already has become a large book, which surely something gained. The other indications have the nature of this large book. The next sign, C2. What do you make of that, Watson? Chapter the second, no doubt. Hardly that, Watson. You will I'm sure, agree with me that if the page be given the number of the chapter is immaterial. Also, the page 534 is only in the second chapter. The length of the first must be really intolerable. Oh, my cried. Brilliant, Watson. You were scintillating this morning. If it's not a column, then I am very much deceived. So now, you see, we begin to visualize a large book printed in double columns, which are each a considerable length, since one of the words is numbered in the document as the 293rd. Have we reached the limits of what reasons can supply? I fear we have. Surely, you do yourself an injustice. One more persuasion, my dear Watson. Yet another brainwave. Had the volume been the usual one, he would have sent it to me. Instead of that, he had intended, before his plans were knit, to send me the clue in this envelope. He says so in this note. It would seem to indicate the book is one which I would have no difficulty in finding for myself. He added it, and he imagined that I would have it, too. In short, Watson, it is a very common book. What you say certainly sounds plausible. So, we have contracted our field of search to a large book, printed in double columns and in common use. The Bible! I cried triumphantly. Good, Watson, good, but not, if I may so, quite good enough. Even if I accepted the compliment for myself, I could hardly name any volume which would be less likely to lie at the elbow of one of Moriarty's associates. Besides, the editions of the Holy Writ are so numerous that it could hardly suppose that two copies would have the same pigmentation. This is clearly a book which is standardized, for he knows certain that the page 534 will exactly agree with my page. 534. But very few books would correspond with that. Exactly. Therein lies a salvation. For searching narrowed down to standardized books which anyone may suppose to possess. Bradshaw. There are difficulties, Watson. The vocabulary of Bradshaw is nervous and tense, but limited. The selection of words would hardly lend itself to sending of general messages. We will eliminate Bradshaw. The dictionary is, I fear, inadmissible for the same reason. What, then, is left? An alchemic. Exactly, Watson. I am very much mistaken if you not touched the spot. An alchemic. Let us consider the claims of Whitaker's alchemic. It is in common use. It has requisite number of pages. It is double column. Though reserved in its early vocabulary, it becomes, if I remember quite right, garrulous towards the end. He picked a volume up over his deck. Here is page 534, column 2. A substantial block of print dealing, I perceive, with the trade of the resources of British India. Just add them words, Watson. Number 13 is Maratha. Not, I fear, very auspicious beginning. Number 127 is government, which at least makes sense, though somewhat irrelevant to ourselves and Professor Moriarty. Now let us try again. What does the Maratha government do? Alas, the next word is pig's bristles. We are undone, my good Watson. It is finished. He had spoken in jesting vein, but the twitching of his brushy eyebrows bespoke his disappointment, irritation. I felt helpless, unhappy, staring into the fire. A long silence was broken by a sudden exclamation from Holmes, who dashed at the cupboard from which emerged with a second yellow-colored volume in a hand. We pay the price, Watson, for being too up-to-date, he cried. We are before our time and suffer the usual penalties. Being the 7th of January, we have very late in the new alchemic, but it's more than likely Borlaug took his message from the old one. No doubt he would have told us so in his letter of explanation he had written. Now, let's see what's at page 534 as in store for us. Number 13 is there, which is much more promising. Number 127 is. There is. Holmes' eyes were gleaming with excitement, and his thin, nervous fingers twitched as he counted the words. Danger! Aha! Capital! Put that down, Watson. There is danger. May come very soon. Then we have the name Douglas, rich country. Now at Burlstone, House Burlstone, confidence is pressing. There, Watson, what do you think of that pure reason in its fruit? If the greengrocer had such a thing as illyrial wealth, I should send Billy round for it. I was staring at the strange message which I'd scrawled as he deciphered it upon a sheet of foolscap on my knee. What a queer, scrambling way of expressing its meaning, said I. On the contrary, he has done quite remarkably well. When you search a single column for words which express your meaning, you can hardly expect to get everything you want. You are bound to leave in the intelligence of your correspondent. The purport is perfectly clear. The deviltry is intended against one Douglas, whoever he may be, residing as stated, a rich country gentleman. He is sure. Confidence as near as you get confident. That is pressing. There is a result, a very workmanlike little bit of analysis it was. Holmes had the impersonal joy of the true artist in his better work, even as he mourned darkly when it fell below the high level to which he aspired. He was still chuckling over his success when Billy swung open the door, and Inspector MacDonald, Scotland Yard, was ushered into the room. Those were the early days at the end of the 80s, when Alec MacDonald was far from attaining the national fame which he had now achieved. He was a young, but trusted member of the detective force who had distinguished himself in several cases that had been entrusted to him. A tall, bony figure gave promise of exceptional strength, while his great cranium and deep-set, lustrous eyes spoke no less clearly, with a keen and intelligence which twinkled out from behind his bushy eyebrows. He was silent, precise man, with a dour nature and a hard Aberdonian accent. Twice already in his career had Holmes helped him to attain his success, his sole reward being the intellectual joy of the problem. For this reason, the affection and respect of the Scotchman for his amateur colleague were profound, and he showed them by frankness which he consulted Holmes with every difficulty. Mediocrity knows nothing higher than itself, but talent instantly recognizes genius. And MacDonald had talent enough for his profession to enable him to perceive that there was no humiliation in seeking the assistance of one who already stood alone in Europe. Both in his gifts and his experience, Holmes was not prone to friendship. But he was tolerant of the big Scotchman and smiled at the sight of him. "You're an early bird, Mr. Mac," said he. "I wish you luck with your worm. I fear this means that there's some mischief afoot." If you said hope instead of fear, it would be near the truth. I'm thinking, Mr. Holmes, the inspector answered, with a knowing grin. Well, maybe a wee nip would keep out the raw morning chill. No, I won't smoke you. I thank you. I'll have been pushing on my way for the early hours of a case of the precious ones, as no man knows better than yourself. But, the inspector had stopped suddenly, and there was a staring with a look of absolute amazement on the paper of the table. It was a sheet upon which I had scrawled the enigmatic message. "Douglas," he stammered, "Pearlstone, what is this Hummerstones? Man, it's witchcraft. Where in the name of all that is wonderful did you get those names?" "It's a cipher that Dr. Watson and I had the occasion to solve. What's amiss with the names?" The inspector looked from one to another in dazed astonishment. "Just this," said he, "that Mr. Douglas of Pearlstone Manor House was horribly murdered last night."